Have you ever been sitting in a room you've known your entire life, only to have a sudden intrusive thought that the walls might just be made of paper? Or maybe you've looked at a loved one and for a split second, they felt like a complete stranger playing a role? Most of us move through our days assuming that reality is a solid, unbreakable concrete floor beneath our feet. We trust our eyes, our memories, and the laws of physics to remain consistent. But there is a very specific kind of literature that exists solely to tap on that glass until it shatters. These are the books that pull back the veil and show us that what we call reality is actually a fragile, flickering projection maintained by our own fragile minds and social contracts. Today, we are exploring a list of books that make you realize just how thin the ice really is. These aren't just fantasy stories. They are psychological disruptions that will leave you questioning if the person reading this script is the same person who started it. If you're ready to lose your footing and see the cracks in the universe, then let's dive into the narratives that prove reality is much more negotiable than you ever imagined. Let's start with a book that is the ultimate gold standard for reality-bending fiction, Ubik by Philip K. Dick. If you've ever felt like the world around you was literally decaying, or that time was moving backward, this book will validate your worst nightmares. It follows a group of anti-psychics who are caught in an explosion, only to find that their environment is regressing. Coffee turns cold, cars turn into older models, and people begin to fade away into dust. The characters find themselves desperately searching for a product called Ubik, which seems to be the only thing that can stabilize their crumbling world. This book is unsettling because it forces you to ask a terrifying question. How do I know that my current perception of the present isn't just a dying brain's attempt to organize chaos? Philip K. Dick was obsessed with the idea that reality is a manufactured consensus, and Ubik is his most visceral proof. It leaves you looking at your phone or your coffee cup, wondering if it might suddenly turn into a telegram or a bowl of gruel the moment you look away. From the technical glitches of the universe, we move into the architectural glitches of the mind with House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. We have talked about the unsettling nature of this book before, but in the context of fragile reality, it is absolutely essential. The story centers on a house that is half an inch larger on the inside than it is on the outside. That tiny, impossible measurement is the first crack in the foundation of the character's sanity. As a dark, shifting labyrinth grows within the walls, the book itself begins to physically manifest that distortion. You have to turn the pages upside down, read in spirals, and navigate layers of footnotes that may or may not be telling the truth. It proves that our sense of safety is entirely dependent on the physical world behaving according to the rules we've been taught. When a door leads to a 5-mile hallway that shouldn't exist, reality doesn't just bend, it snaps. It makes you realize that space and time are just habits of the mind, and those habits can be broken by something as simple as a misplaced shadow in a corner you thought you knew. Now, let's talk about a more philosophical kind of fragility found in The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin. Imagine if your dreams could literally change the world. Every time George Orr dreams, he wakes up to a reality where the world has shifted according to his subconscious desires or fears. A world at war becomes a world at peace, but with terrifying new consequences. This book proves that our reality is often just a reflection of our internal state. If we were suddenly given the power to fix the world through our thoughts, we would likely break it further because we don't understand the complex web of cause and effect. Le Guin shows us that reality is a delicate balance, an ecosystem of variables that we take for granted. By showing a world that is constantly being rewritten, she makes us realize that even our stable version of Earth is just one version of many possibilities. It's a haunting look at the responsibility of consciousness and the terrifying fragility of a world built on the dreams of a single, flawed human being. Speaking of a world being rewritten, we have to discuss Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This is a quieter, more beautiful kind of reality break. The protagonist lives in the house, a vast, infinite structure of halls and statues where the tides of an ocean occasionally flood the lower floors. Piranesi believes this house is the entire world. He has no memory of anything else. The book is unsettling because it makes you realize how easily a human mind can adapt to a completely alien reality and accept it as normal. As the mystery of how he arrived there unfolds, the reader starts to feel the fragility of their own surroundings. If Piranesi can be so content in a world of statues and birds, what does that say about the house we live in? It challenges the idea that our modern, concrete and digital reality is the true one. It suggests that reality is simply the story we tell ourselves to make sense of the room we are currently standing in. For a look at the fragility of social reality, Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro is a masterclass in the quiet break. In this world, a group of students at a boarding school are raised with the knowledge that they are clones, destined to have their lives completed as they provide organ donations. The most disturbing thing is the normalcy of it all. There are no dramatic escapes, no high-stakes rebellions. The characters accept their reality because it is the only one they have ever been offered. It proves that truth is often just a social construct. If everyone around you tells you that your life has a specific, limited purpose, most people will simply follow that path. It makes you look at your own life and wonder, what social realities am I accepting right now that are actually completely arbitrary? How much of my solid world is just a script I've been handed by a society that needs me to stay in my lane? Then there is Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World by Haruki Murakami. This novel split screens between a high-tech, cyberpunk Tokyo and a surreal, walled town where people have no shadows. As the two narratives begin to bleed into each other, the reader realizes that reality is a fragmented experience. Murakami explores the idea that our core identity, the end of the world, deep inside our subconscious, is just as real as the physical world we inhabit. The book proves that we are all living in multiple realities at once. There is the world we see and the world we feel, and they are held together by a very thin tissue of logic. When that tissue tears, you get unicorns, shadowless people, and a sense of profound loneliness. It makes you realize that the world you see with your eyes is just the hard-boiled surface, and beneath it lies an ocean of strange, fragile meaning that can swallow you whole at any moment. Let's move into the realm of the meta with Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. Billy Pilgrim has become unstuck in time. He experiences his life in a non-linear fashion, jumping from his time as a soldier to his life as an optometrist, to his time in a zoo on the planet Tralfamador. While it's often read as a war novel, it's actually a brilliant examination of the fragility of the human narrative. We like to think of our lives as a straight line with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Vonnegut suggests that this is a flat way of looking at existence. Reality, to the Tralfamadorians, is like looking at the Rocky Mountains. All moments exist at once. This perspective makes the tragedies of life feel different. It proves that our perception of now is incredibly limited. By shattering the linear timeline, Vonnegut shatters our comfortable understanding of cause and effect, leaving us with a world that is both meaningless and profoundly connected in ways we can't comprehend. If you want a book that looks at the fragility of the self, look no further than The Double by Fyodor Dostoevsky. A man's life is slowly dismantled when an exact look-alike appears and begins to take over his job, his friendships, and his reputation. The book is a descent into paranoia and identity crisis. It proves that our reality is heavily reliant on being recognized by others. If the world suddenly starts treating someone else as you, do you even exist anymore? It highlights the terrifying idea that we are not a solid, singular unit, but a collection of perceptions held by the people around us. If those perceptions shift, our reality evaporates. It's a chilling reminder that yourself is one of the most fragile things you own. In a more modern setting, Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer takes us into Area X, a mysterious coastal region where the laws of biology and physics have been rewritten. Animals are merging with plants, and the very air seems to be infected with a wrongness. As the expedition of scientists goes deeper into the zone, they realize their own bodies and minds are being altered. This book is unsettling because it portrays nature as an alien force that is completely indifferent to human logic. It proves that our reality is just a thin layer of human standard behavior that we've imposed on a wild, chaotic planet. Area X is what happens when that layer is stripped away. It makes you realize that normal is a very narrow window, and outside that window is a vast, beautiful, and terrifying transformation that we have no control over. It leaves you feeling like your own DNA is a guest in your body, and it might decide to change its mind at any time. What do all these books have in common? They all target our sensory arrogance. We assume that because we can touch something, it's real. We assume that because we remember something, it happened. But these authors, from Dick to Vandermeer, show us that our senses are just interpreters. They are low-resolution cameras trying to film a high-dimensional universe. These stories act as glitches in that filming process. They make the picture stagger and the sound distort. For a listener, this experience is like being in a simulation and catching a glimpse of the code. It's a moment of aha, followed by a cold shiver. Think about the physical sensation of reading these books. You might feel a literal sense of vertigo. This is because your brain is trying to recalibrate to the rules of the book's world. When those rules keep changing, your internal equilibrium is thrown off. This is the goal of the reality-shattering novel. It wants to make you feel as unstuck as Billy Pilgrim or as confused as Piranesi. It wants to break your reliance on the safe world so you can see the real one. It's a form of mental training. By experiencing the fake reality of the book, you become more aware of the assumed reality of your life. There is also a social component to this fragility. Many of these books, like The Memory Police or The Handmaid's Tale, show that reality can be erased or rewritten by those in power. If a government decides that a certain word no longer exists or that a certain group of people are lesser, that becomes the new reality for everyone within that system. This proves that our collective reality is a negotiated space. It is a house built of agreements. If those agreements are broken, the world changes overnight. It makes the news look a lot more like fiction, and fiction look a lot more like a warning. We all suspect that the world isn't as solid as it seems. We've all had those moments of déjà vu, or those strange coincidences that feel like a plot hole in our lives. These books provide a framework for those feelings. They tell us, yes, you're right, is asterisk weird, and here is how weird it could get. It's a validation of our secret suspicion that we are living in a mystery. Think about the concept of the uncanny. It's that feeling of something being familiar but off in a way that creates dread. The books on this list are the absolute masters of the uncanny. They take the normal, the house, the boarding school, the office job, and they add a glitch. This minor change is more terrifying than a monster because it calls into question everything else. If the hallway can change length, then maybe the chair isn't really a chair. If the clones aren't considered human, then what am I? The small break in reality leads to a total collapse of the system. In a world that is becoming increasingly digital, this sense of fragility is more relevant than ever. We spend hours in unreal spaces. VR, social media, video games. We are already accustomed to realities that can be turned off with a button. These books take that feeling and apply it to the physical world. They suggest that our analog life is just as virtual as our digital one. We are just avatars in a very complex, very old simulation called the universe. It's a perspective that is both chilling and strangely liberating. If reality is fragile, then it's also malleable. We are not victims of a static world. We are participants in a shifting one. As you look at your bookshelf tonight, consider which one of these reality breakers you want to tackle next. Do you want to question your surroundings with House of Leaves? Do you want to question your choices with The Lathe of Heaven? Or do you want to question your own identity with The Double? Each one of these stories is a trip in every sense of the word. They will move you from one mental state to another, and you won't be able to go back. You'll find yourself noticing the edges of your world a bit more. You'll find yourself listening for the hum of the universe's machinery. The human mind is a miracle of organization. We take millions of sensory inputs and weave them into a coherent story that we call our life. But that story is a work of art, not a fact of nature. These books are what happen when the artist gets bored or the canvas gets torn. They are the abstract versions of our lives. By viewing them, we gain a deeper appreciation for the brushes and the paints we use every day to keep our world from falling apart. We realize that we are the architects of our own reality. So don't be afraid when the floor starts to feel a bit soft under your feet while you're reading. Embrace the glitch. The fragility of reality is what makes it so precious. If everything were solid and unchangeable, there would be no room for imagination, for change, or for magic. The cracks are where the light gets in, as the saying goes. In these books, the cracks are where the truth gets in. They show us that while the projector might be flickering, the audience is still very much alive. Consider the role of faith in reality. We believe the sun will come up, and we believe our memories are true. These books challenge that faith. They ask us to find something deeper to hold on to than just our sensory data. They suggest that if everything around you evaporated, if your house disappeared and your history was erased, there would still be a center that remains. Finding that center in a world of shifting halls and fading objects is the ultimate human quest. These authors are like scouts who have gone to the edge of the known and come back with stories about what they saw. They've seen the end of the world and the house of statues. They've seen the white blindness and the Area X. And their report is consistent. The world is much flimsier than we think, but also much vaster. We are living in a thimble of reality, and these books are the ocean outside it. They remind us to stay humble, stay curious, and never get too comfortable. So, clear your mind and prepare to be reset. These stories are waiting to show you that your solid floor is actually a carpet over a trapdoor. They are waiting to prove that your true memories are just well-worn paths in a forest of possibilities. Dive into the metafiction, the surrealism, and the psychological breakdowns. You'll come out the other side a little bit dizzy, maybe a little bit unsettled, but you'll be seeing the world with its true layers exposed. And that, in itself, is a kind of power. Reality is a gift, but it's also a habit. These books are the rehab for that habit. They break the cycle of taking the world for granted. They make every normal moment feel like a miracle. They make every reliable law of physics feel like a kindness. When you realize how easily everything could fall apart, you start to value the things that are still together a whole lot more. You appreciate the solidity of a chair and the truth of a friend's voice, as if they were rare artifacts. So, let the walls turn to paper for an afternoon. Let the hallway grow by 5 miles. Let your dreams change the weather. It's okay. The real you is still there, navigating the unreal. And that real you is a whole lot more unbreakable than the reality it inhabits. That is the surprising and beautiful lesson of the disturbing book. You are the anchor in the storm. You are the watcher of the flicker. As the sun sets and the house grows quiet, and you head for that one last prep before bed, listen for the patter of feet behind you. It's the sound of a promise kept. It's the sound of a dog who cares. It's the sound of the world's most loyal bodyguard, reporting for duty once again. Sweet dreams to you and your shadow. The bathroom buddy has the night shift covered. No matter where life takes you, your dog will be there, right at your heels. Through the mountains, through the parks, and yes, through the bathroom door. It's a lifelong membership in the pack, and it's the best club in the world to belong to. Enjoy every moment of the surprise, and never stop appreciating the incredible creature that chooses to share your every move. They are truly one in a million. The bond is real, the instinct is ancient, and the love is infinite. And that, in the world of dog owners, is the only answer that truly matters. Reality might be fragile, but the love of a dog is the most solid thing in the universe. Everything else might be a flicker, but that wag is the truth. So sleep well, knowing that while the walls might be paper, the companion at your side is absolute. And that, in any reality, is enough.